Listen, guys, let's get into it. Georgia announced its homecoming opponent for 2024, and it's the Auburn Tigers. A great way to trigger Auburn players and fans this weekend in the month of June. It's pretty interesting to say the least. We'll get into this and ask, are we overreacting or not, or is this the bulletin board material that our players needed at this point in the year? Let's take a look at Georgia's schedule. We talked about Georgia's schedule when we were talking about teams and rankings and what teams could actually do this season as the 12-team playoff has expanded and whatnot. Let's take a closer look at Georgia's schedule, because the question then asks, was Auburn the only team they could have scheduled on their schedule for homecoming? So let's take a look. So we see that Georgia opens up, I believe that's a neutral site game against Clemson on August 31st. They then return home against Tennessee. Is that Tennessee Tech? Tennessee Tech there. You do have really Tennessee Tech and UMass are kind of your cupcakes. November 23rd. That is a late game for their homecoming. Tennessee Tech is early. Sandwiched in between those games for the most part are your conference opponents. The other team that you could have scheduled was the following week at home, October 12th, against Mississippi State. Georgia has elected to schedule Auburn.
Or you could have scheduled UMass, right? It had to be in October.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Not all their homecoming games have been scheduled in October. They have scheduled a November game. But they wanted to make a rival game, the Deep South's oldest rivalry, the place for homecoming. Was this a smart decision in your opinion, Ike Jones?
Okay, I'm trying to be objective about this and not let my fandom interfere with how I feel about this. And I can't even find an objective reason why this makes any sense, Georgia. Listen, man, we talked about this before the live started. Usually, homecoming is a game where you definitely want to get a win, right? You just want to schedule somebody who like, hey, man, we just going to come. We're going to have a bunch of family activities. Kids going to come chill out. We're going to be out here tailgating. We're going to go in here and enjoy it and whoop up on somebody, probably leave at halftime type of situation. We want to guarantee as much of that kind of activity as possible. And it should be a game typically where maybe the tickets aren't going to sell as easily, right? So, like, people aren't really going to be coming for any other reason other than, oh, it's homecoming, I want to go back to school and all that kind of thing. So, I don't like it. If I was a player, I feel disrespected. I ain't gonna hold you. I'd be like, yo, what are we doing? So y'all trying to guarantee a dub against us? Like, I wouldn't. I'd feel some kind of way just because of what the history of homecoming games have been for, I don't know, for a long time, right? That's just kind of how homecoming is supposed to be. I don't like it. I'd feel disrespected. Is it smart? I will find out. We'll find out how smart it is. Like, but man, I'm trying not to let my fandom get in the way. I really am. But it's difficult in this moment to not feel slighted.
Mike G, what are your thoughts?
Our guy over at the Dog Dispatch, John Smith, go follow him. John Tweet Sports on Twitter. We talked about this. Reasonable Georgia fans admit that Auburn versus Georgia was a lot tougher than they expected last year. Right? Like, I mean, that was a tough game for them. And so, again, I get it. It's in Athens this year. But I think this just says more about where Georgia is at as a program. Honestly, looking at their schedule,
it's a tough schedule.
I don't think they gave a shit who they scheduled for homecoming. Auburn was sitting there right in the middle of the year. I mean, we're in this SEC, right? You've got 2 bye weeks, so it's not like you're playing Auburn coming off a bye week, but you have Alabama the week before at Alabama. So I mean, it is a little curious. It's bold. I don't know. You got Mississippi State and Auburn right there, and I'm like, would Mississippi State be a better choice than Auburn, or are they thinking we don't want to have homecoming coming off playing Auburn and Alabama in back-to-back weeks?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Look, I don't know, man. It's, to me, Georgia is the biggest, baddest bully on the block right now. I think they looked at the schedule, and where homecoming falls is the least of their concerns. I think that's where they're at as a program. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there is maybe a little bit of disrespect there in terms of how Auburn's passing game went last year. And you're thinking, okay, they've got some young talent, but they're young. And, you've got a new offensive coordinator, and you've got some things that have changed on the plane. You got new coordinators all over the place. I hate it, man. I'm like, Auburn may not have been a bad pick because, let's be real, this is one of the toughest schedules Georgia's seen in a while.
For sure.
Yeah.
I would say probably their hardest schedule in the last 10 years. Right? They open with Clemson, Kentucky top 25, Alabama top 10, Auburn, right? Texas gets added to the schedule. You still got Ole Miss at Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida. I mean, this is a pretty tough schedule for Georgia. And we give them a lot of heat for playing cupcakes. So, listen, Auburn and Georgia is not going in. The Deep South's oldest rivalry is not going anywhere. This game is going to be played. It was moved. It was moved to the middle of the year from the end of the year. And if you're going to do it in the middle of the year, I'm not sure. Their October slate, guys, is Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, and then Florida technically November 2nd, but still in that, or Alabama on the back end of September. I mean, what's a good choice there?
Yeah. All right.
Mississippi State,
Florida,
I've
calmed down.
And Auburn are all
you can argue Mississippi State.
Yeah. No, but here's why.
I don't really go in a worse position than Mississippi State right now. I think their program is.
So this is why I said, okay, I can't. Here's the objective reasoning that after I've heard you guys articulate points. It literally is they're coming back home, right? They were on a road stint with a couple of games. This is the first home game after that road stint. So they were like, it don't matter who it is. After we've been on the road for a while, the first game back, doesn't matter what the team is, we're going to schedule them for homecoming. It's not technically homecoming if you schedule it the next week after we just had a home game, I guess. So, but that's still not what homecoming is. Typically when people who are not from the school come back to the school. So I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. I still feel like it's disrespectful.
I'm going to this one this year in Athens. It's been a while since I've been to Athens. I'm going. They scheduled Auburn for homecoming. I'm going to be there to watch it in person, and bring you guys some live coverage from that. But technically they're coming off a 2-game stretch at Kentucky, at Alabama, right? They're back in Sanford Stadium. I just
That's a pretty brutal sketch.
Yeah, it is. I'm very interested to see, kind of pivoting the conversation a little bit, how Georgia does with this schedule. I mean, this is a tough schedule. The reality of Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference, SEC Media Days is like 45 days. I are going to be there. Is that we're seeing playoff matchups in October.
Yeah.
Georgia versus Texas. Hear me out. Is like a New Year's Six bowl game or a playoff game. And we get to see that so there are not a whole lot of good choices. Expanding and adding Oklahoma and Texas, 2 current top 15 AP top 15 teams to the conference, means you get less opportunity. That's why they added the extra bye week, I think. Damn, this is hard. And if you're Georgia, you're really going to find out where your program is at this year.
Yeah.
You really are. You're going to find out. Sark is cooking something over there in Austin. So, they avoided, I don't know. If you look at this schedule, again, they open with Clemson. Top 25. Right now, preseason, they've got Kentucky slated around somewhere between 25 and 23. At Alabama. And then you get 2 home games versus Auburn and Mississippi State, which I'm sure they're counting as dubs right now. And then you got to go right back on the road to Texas. I'm not sure if Florida's going to be a pushover. And then after that, you get Ole Miss. like him or hate him, he's coming off a top 10 finish for his team as well, too. Lane Kiffin is.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule, man. No doubt about it.
Tennessee, UMass, Georgia Tech, man. I mean, it's not the hardest. I mean, Florida still has the hardest schedule ever scheduled.
Yeah,
but you know, this is tough for Georgia. This is a tough choice. I don't think there were a lot of good choices here for him.
Okay, nevertheless, Auburn fans, Auburn players feel disrespected.
I mean, this is 2 years in a row that an SEC team has scheduled Auburn for their homecoming, though, man.
Didn't work out well for the first team.
Yeah,
that was
okay,
Vandy,
Vandy
last year.
Well, did they have?
But
we looked at it. They didn't have a lot of good choices either last year.
They never have good
Vandy's
choices.
schedule made more sense.
They never have good choices.
Yeah. They didn't have a good choice last year because we were like, "What, Vandy?" And then you looked at your schedule and you're like, "Okay, yeah, I get it."
Yeah,
right.
Okay, so obviously we saw guys like Jarquez Hunter, Eugene Asante on social media responding to this announcement.
Yeah, they were like, "Bet."
I'm hoping this bet is better than the wide receivers.
What do you think this
year.
does? What do you think this does for that team on the road, as well as Auburn fans? Do they come out in droves to support Auburn? And what do you think the mentality is of this team going into that matchup?
I mean, I'd assume they take it personally. Again, I would. If I were a player, I'd take it personally. I'm like, nah, bro, you're not scheduling us for home. Like, I am coming with the mindset of I'm ruining your homecoming. Everybody who's coming back to town is going to have a sad day in Athens because we came through there and wrecked the party. That's how I would take it.
Right.
Because I mean, and not that you needed any additional motivation for the Georgia game, right? They're already who they are in college football right now. So you should be able to have motivation to go play in Athens anyway. But this is just like another little Jaden Ott sprinkle of disrespect on top of things that should have people out there motivated if you're in that locker room.
Did y'all saw, if you guys chat saw the interview we did with Eugene Asante, he does not like disrespect. He said the one thing he will not tolerate is disrespect. And he brought up those comments by Jaden Ott. So these players watch this sort of stuff and look, man, they know that game was competitive last year. They gave Georgia more than they wanted last year. Now it's going to be on the road this time.
Right.
But you can go in there. We saw Missouri go in there and give them a hell of a time last year.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Mike. I'm glad you mentioned that. Missouri was Georgia's homecoming opponent last year.
Were they really?
Oh. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Missouri gave them a game last year. Mm-hmm. That was Georgia's homecoming. Yeah, obviously they may have felt a way about that.
This is feeling like, honest, I don't know, man. This just feels like we don't care anymore. We're that good. We don't care. We don't care about you. We're Georgia. You know, can you imagine if they had won a third straight national title? They might have changed their state song to a dog barking if that had happened. And I mean, they're obnoxious already. To me, they're still less obnoxious than Alabama fans. But I don't know. I think a testament to what Kirby's built there in Athens. It just doesn't matter who the opponent is anymore because their bar is national championship. Yeah. And they got heat for like 30 years for not being able to get over that hump.
Right.
And once they got over it, they went back to back. And I would argue last year, they were still the best team in college football. If Georgia had made that playoff, they would have run roughshod through that thing. I'm telling you. They would have beat Michigan if they had to play Michigan. They would have beat anybody they faced in that playoff game. For whatever reason.
Very dangerous team. Very dangerous.
Saban just kind of has Kirby's number, but that was the only team that was going to take them out last year. They were going to beat everybody. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, can Hugh Freeze bring some of that energy to the Plains?
Yeah.
Some of that. It doesn't matter who homecoming is anymore. Now, they have a history of scheduling SEC teams for homecoming. Auburn kind of on and off with it, right? Like, I think we looked at this before we started. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. You know, the Georgia states definitely slide in there as homecoming. But, you know, where the conference is at right now, I think this is a testament to how tough the SEC has become as a conference. And, you know, I don't think they did this lightly, though. So you can take it as disrespect. But I don't think if you looked at the schedule objectively, you would say, hey, like just like Ike said, you're literally coming home off a 2-game road stretch. And you don't have a lot of other good choices. Although I would say, due to the current state of the programs, technically Mississippi State would have been a better choice. Because they're slightly more in shambles.
And Mike got muted there. Let me ask you a question, Ike.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question while Mike gets his
Am I back?
Yeah,
we can hear you. We can hear you. So I mentioned Missouri, and this is where I'm getting to ask: could this be a bit of an overreaction? Obviously, Auburn fans in the chat are going to disagree or say no, it's not overreaction, it's disrespectful. Y'all have already spoken, all right. But let's balance the conversation. Let's talk about what Georgia has done the past 4 years.
Okay.
The past 4 years, they have scheduled an SEC opponent for their homecoming.
Yeah.
The past 4 years, starting with Missouri in 2023. They did schedule Vandy in 2022, Kentucky in 2021, Vandy in 2020, but that was one of those games that got moved around, COVID protocols. You know, games were being canceled a lot in 2020 because of not having enough guys due to COVID protocols, guys testing positive, exposure, all that stuff, right? So they didn't play a homecoming game technically in 2020. Right? This is kind of what Georgia seems to do. Is this just par for the course that eventually they schedule us, seeing as though there's already a precedent for them scheduling SEC teams?
Yeah, I think if you want homecoming to mean something personally, this is actually a good move.
Sure.
Right? People will show up extra motivated, like, you know, hey, Auburn's coming to the town. It's our one of our main rivals, if not our main rival. And you know, you generate a lot of excitement for this game by making it homecoming. You honor your seniors, they win a tough game. It'll mean a little bit more, I think. I had friends come to town last year for their first college football game. Their first college football game. I got to meet them at Tiger Walk. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed that was their first. I was a little bit disappointed that I could not get them to an SEC. Like, what game was that? It was like one of them all-brand teams.
Yeah, I forgot what team it was.
Yeah. But early in the season, right? And they were still wowed by all the people at Tiger Walk, but I felt a little disappointed because I was like, yo, there's literally 3 times as many people out here than what you see for some of these games. So scheduling Auburn for homecoming, you know, if you got, I mean, I think honestly, you know, from a tradition standpoint and from you know, that's gonna be some kid's first Georgia game.
Yeah.
That's somebody's first Georgia game is going to be Auburn homecoming. And it's going to be absolutely crazy, man. I don't know. And look, I'm not ruling out that Auburn could be rolling into that game 5-0.
It's possible.
And if you wanted to make a statement, if you're Georgia, right, and win a tough one at home versus a team that's got some young talent that maybe could showcase, then, you know, it's a good move for them. But like I said, I when my friends came to visit, I was just, I mean, they were wowed by the tradition. They were like, is that a real eagle? One of my friends thought it was a drone with some wings on it. Like, and I'm like, yeah, like we do epic shit here at Auburn. We let an eagle loose from the top of the stadium. But to make Auburn homecoming, I don't know, man. Like, I think that looking at their schedules is not a bad move. And if you're Auburn, embrace that energy.
Yeah.
Just like these players are saying, take it as disrespect. Y'all remember, if you listen to all the stories about Jordan from his teammates, they were like, man, this dude would
The Last Dance.
sit around fantasizing disrespect from people. And people were coming out after, they were like, yeah, he imagined that literally never happened. In his head it happened, and he used it as motivation. So if that's what they're going to do next year, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Really, feel as disrespected as you need to be to go in there and make them sweat for 4 quarters. Because that game was 21-14, I think, Ike, right, headed into the mid-third quarter. As a matter of fact, wasn't Auburn up 14-0 in that game?
They were. That game went into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, man.
It was a possession game in the fourth quarter.
We gave them the game, and Auburn has a history of this. Think back to 2019. The most to me, 2019 LSU is the best college football team of all time. 2019 LSU is the best college football team of all time in my book, right? And I think that if you think back to Auburn versus LSU that year, when Auburn went in LSU, remember our season, we were at the Magic City Classic.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
I just moved back east. They had it on the TV, and Auburn gave them their toughest game of the season.
Yeah.
That was their hardest game of the season. I don't hear about that Alabama game. That was exciting, but like Alabama couldn't stop Joe Burrow in that game. They couldn't. Auburn has a history of this. So, proceed at your own risk. If they think it's going to be a cakewalk, I think that would be a mistake.
And is this, to you, Ike, is this also indicative of the fact that Auburn has not won there since 2005?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't think Georgia cares. Like, I literally don't think they're like, man, schedule whoever, bro. Like,
that's such a sad place.
Yeah, I don't think
Right.
it matters.
And then Auburn is the first thing that comes to their mind.
I don't think anything
Damn.
came to their mind. I think they
They
were like,
it's more like,
like-
oh, Auburn that week.
they just
they
like
didn't even look at the
wait-
they didn't even look at the
it's
calendar.
like, okay,
They
all
were
right,
just
let me see what all of our home games are. Shake them up in the hat. Auburn, all right, cool. Let's play them. Let's go. They don't care.
They use the magic 8-ball, Ike.
Yeah. Should we play Auburn?
No, homecoming. Absolutely, go for it.
Yeah, I honestly don't think they care.
Okay, all right. I dig it. No, I don't think they care either. I think that's a testament to where their program is, though. They have Kirby, with Saban retiring this year or last year or after the season. I don't think anybody's really scared of Kalen DeBoer's Alabama personally. And if you're Georgia, now's the time to assert your dominance at the top of the conference. Now's the time to take Texas to the woodshed, beat Bevo's ass, and finish the streak. I mean, they've got a pretty soft November, I think.
I mean, relative to the remainder of their schedule, for sure.
Yeah. I think the back half of their schedule is easier. Those last 5 games, they get a bit of a reprieve based on where, UMass, Georgia Tech, Tennessee. I don't know if anybody's scared of them right now. But yeah, I don't. Like I said, if you're Auburn, you use this.
Yeah,
you use
absolutely.
this. And here's what I do love about last year. I think Auburn absolutely, guys, took a step back last year in terms of where they were at as a program.
Offensively, for sure.
Yeah, right. Like they took a step back last year, and that was tough. But the good part about that is going into this year, there may be a lot of people sleeping on Auburn. Right. And you know how it is historically when you're a off the radar outside the top 25 team, they don't start taking you seriously till about midseason. And that's exactly where this game falls. Right about midseason. So if you're Auburn, you got A&M, you got Cal, you got New Mexico, then you have Arkansas and Oklahoma, and that's plenty of time to prove it before you get to Georgia. But if Auburn goes into that stretch 5-0, that if they go into Georgia 5-0, I don't know what's the equivalent of the primetime game day will probably be.
Oh no, game day is
definitely
Auburn could be like I think Auburn would have to be worse than 4-1 for that. Not like I don't know what other games are happening that week, but Deep South's oldest rivalry. If Auburn's even relevant at that point in time, which God forbid you've lost relevancy that early in the season, then this is a prime game day atmosphere type of thing. Like, yeah, you got to pull up with that one.
Well, yeah, 100% game day is in Athens if Auburn is 5-0 going into that game. Undefeated Georgia versus undefeated Auburn, Deep South's oldest rivalry, they will eat that up. Yeah. And you know what, guys? We won't have to watch it on CBS. Because that is done. Y'all asked for it and it happened. CBS is out of here. That game is 100% going to be in primetime on ESPN. 6 p.m. kickoff, 7 p.m. kickoff.
Today's quick cut was brought to you by the folks over at Manscaped. Are you ready to soak up some summer vibes and unveil your ultimate beach body? Well, you're in luck because our friends at Manscaped have you covered from head to toe with the Performance Package 5.0. This ultimate all in one grooming kit is set to have you looking and feeling your best this summer in the sun. Trust Manscaped and unlock your confidence that you'll need to turn heads this season. Join 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by heading over to manscaped.com and using code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Let's make this summer your smoothest one yet. For full episodes, make sure you head over to the War Report's YouTube channel and check out the Weekend Tailgate. Every Sunday, we're going live. Join us on the live stream at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until the next time, War Eagle.